Hi everyone, this is Rowan. I'm the graduate assistant who drafted this course. We're just going to be going over the CBT and RABT units, or this sort of cognitive therapy unit altogether. And this is just sort of a brief overview, is the idea. So this is one of probably the more important units in the course. If you don't understand this one, I think this is going to be one of the more important ones just in general. So it's one of the more common things to understand, I guess. So the way this unit's structured is you have RABT first. RABT is very logic-based. It's sometimes a little bit sarcastic, sort of a little bit abrasive sometimes, maybe. Very like, this is what's logical. If you live your life by logic, you'd be happier. Albert Ellis is the founder. We'll get more into that. And that part should be really fast, maybe like 5-10 minutes. And you want to do the reading. I would recommend just doing the whole reading of RABT and CBT all at once. I don't think you'll mix them up too badly. They're very similar, but and then the CBT section we're going to spend a little bit more time on. I anticipate that'll take you probably 20 minutes, half an hour or so to go through it. If you're not sure what to spend the most time on, so there's a couple of things that sort of go into the cognitive behavioral therapy approach, mindset, strategy for doing therapy. The basic idea is that your thoughts and your behavior are the focus of, should be the focus of therapy, right? That if you can change your thoughts and you can change your behavior, that you'll be happier, right? And so I would say American society as a whole has largely bought into this idea, right? It's the central therapy style, or the offshoots of it, like ACT and DBT that we'll get into in the next unit. So CBT is very logic-based, similar to RABT, but it's very much about changing how you perceive what's going on, and sort of addressing and challenging the thoughts that you have about something. So if you're trying to figure out what to focus on, I would really focus on the cognitive distortions and on the techniques for combating them. I think that's going to get you the most bang for your buck in terms of understanding this. The first time I learned about CBT, that didn't really come up in the lesson, and I think that I maybe didn't understand it very well as a result. So I tried to put that sort of more practical, hands-on, maybe sort of a lot of those examples in there for you. Hopefully that was helpful, and not just sort of like a lot of random terms. Basically, if you want sort of an example, you could imagine that someone says, a depressed person, for instance, they say, "I'm the worst. I always fail at everything, and it's not really worth trying anymore, right? I failed this test. This girl rejected me, or significant whatever other in this experience, or something happened, right? And I'm a loser, right? I'm terrible." Very sort of classic depressive thinking, right? And a psychoanalyst or a behaviorist might approach this from different ways. A psychoanalyst might say, well, your childhood has led you to lead to or the way that you relate to people is something like this. Or a behaviorist might say, well, I mean, you did X, and it led to Y, so you should probably try doing something else. But a CBT person will usually look at that and say, that's really interesting that you labeled yourself loser. Do you believe that? And if the person says, yes, I am a loser, I lose at things, then they would sort of approach that, and they would say, okay, this is the key to solving this problem, right? Is that belief that you have about yourself that you're a loser, right? Or that the belief that one rejection means that you aren't worthwhile, right? Or something like that. And so challenging that sort of thing with clients is what this therapy is all about. So usually you go after that in a couple of different ways. Usually there's a lot of like questioning, a lot of trying to be really gentle and respectful, and at the same time sort of find some of the discrepancies maybe and say, so, you know, is there any time when you have not lost at something? And they might say, well, I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, I have won sometimes. And then there's different ways you could say, well, I mean, if you haven't always lost, then what percentage of the time do you have to lose to be officially labeled as a loser, right? And what does that label do for you? Is it, if it's true that you 100% of the time lose at everything you do, then it's probably effective. But if you lose sometimes and win sometimes, then that's just called being human, right? And maybe it's not worth labeling yourself that way. So yeah, so you'll get into that as you go through the course, but I just wanted to sort of give you that taste. Hopefully that's useful. If not, feel free to disregard it. So you'll hear a lot of CBT sort of advice about being aware of your thoughts, challenging negative thoughts, saying, is this thought true? Where is this thought coming from? Why do I believe this? CBT is all about your beliefs. What do you believe about yourself? What do you believe about other people? What do you believe about the future? Right? Yeah. Hopefully that made sense. And in terms of how you can get all the points in the unit, which I think is the point of this video, is or one of the points beyond the overview, is so do the reading checks. The book doesn't really cover CBT very in depth. It's not the system that the author really uses. She's more of an alternative sort of therapist, which is fine. I'm sort of a CBT person personally, so maybe that's my bias coming through. But I would definitely focus. I would focus on this unit overall. I would focus on the CBT section over the REBT section. I think the CBT part is probably more important. And I would definitely focus on the cognitive distortions and on the techniques segment. I think knowing the word schema will be helpful. A basic understanding of like the cognitive triad and some of the other vocab that you come across will be, I think, useful, but the distortions are the key. So hopefully you enjoy the unit. It was a lot of fun to build, and we'll see you in the next unit.